Christ's headship of us is always and ever perfectly marked by his love for his church, which is his body that he saved. This means then that the church belongs to Christ and Christ alone because Christ alone shed his blood for the church. You know why the church doesn't belong to you? Because you didn't shed your blood to save her. And do you know why the church doesn't belong to me or any other sinful human being? Because I didn't die for her salvation. In Acts chapter 20, verse 28, Paul is preaching, and he says that Christ, who, by the way, in that passage is called God clearly and explicitly, irrefutably, he is referenced as God in that verse. Christ purchased the church with his own blood. That is a serious thing, beloved. And before we ever tamper with Christ's church, before we ever arrogate to ourselves some level of authority we think we might have over Christ's church, we should remember that Christ purchased this church with his own blood. That's why I try to be careful and never refer to Desert Hills as our church or my church. I didn't shed my blood for your salvation. This isn't my church. There's only one who can make that claim, and his name is Jesus, and he is the head of the church. Sometimes people get sideways about this, and they think, I've been at this church 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, 50 years. Or I have this title at the church. Or do you know how much money I've given to this church? I should have some say. You get some say when you have gone to a cross, shed your blood, and bore the wrath of God in the place of his entire church for their salvation. When you've given that much, you get some say. Until then, it's Christ's church. And whatever you think you've given, however much you think you have sacrificed for the church, just compare it to what he sacrificed, and you will be reminded of where you belong, which is on your face, giving thanks to God that he would send his son to die for you and me, sinners though we are. We don't have a church. You don't have a church, and I don't have a church. If you have a church, it's a false church with a false Messiah. Christ has a church, and he purchased us with his own blood. This is his church.